Linksnox9 here, and today I want to be going over my boat and kind of what makes this thing unique and how I get things done here in Charleston in it. So a couple key features that I'll go over right fast. First things first, the boat is right at 16 feet. It's technically like 15'8". The hull is a 1977 Dixie Craft. I dare you to go look it up. There was not a lot of these boats made. At one point in time, you could actually find this hull in a Sears catalog, believe it or not. Going through a plethora of skiff ages and just home builds and stuff like that, I knew I was going to renovate a boat, and I knew I wanted to do something that kind of had already, some foundation to it, but I wanted to make something that was a little bit truer to myself. With that being said, Dixie Craft, was originally from Newport, North Carolina, which is only an hour or so from my hometown. So that was a big deal that I kind of wanted to implement. I figured, hey, if I was going to redo a boat that had a little bit of history and heritage, versus going like a Johnson or something like that you might see down in South Florida, I felt like this was a good lane and avenue. So when I redid the boat, I completely gutted out everything off of that end. I actually cut down the gunnel height and the cap height about 6 inches. Obviously there was no deck or spacing in between that, so I implemented all that. I redid everything with the Venicel H80, and I used Kuza off of the back end as well. So with that being said, I really upped the grade on just the building materials and stuff. I'm trying to implement that and try to make it, something that was going to be a lot lighter, obviously, than the original form. I'm getting right at about 4 inches of draft right now if I'm solo by myself. So it does everything I need it to do when it gets into getting skinny. The boat is less than 600 pounds fully rigged. So that's another plus of that aspect. It's not far ahead of a drift boat or something like that. So it's really a light, easy machine. Another couple of key features, the boat is really made to be as simple as anything else. I don't need any power to run this, of course, with the pull start. Just a gas tank is about the only thing you need. I do not have trim tabs or anything in that end. I actually supplement a little bit of weight in the bow with sandbags just to kind of even the proportion there. I haven't ran into the issue where I needed them just quite yet. I've been running the boat for about 2 years now, so it's one of those things where I've made it do this long where I just don't think I'm going to end up doing it. I made and designed this boat to just really be as simple as you could get when it got into no frills. I just wanted to go fishing, and this is about all that you can do on it. Obviously you can see colors definitely unique. This was an original color that Jones Brother designed for a Bateau edition. So it's a Ducks Unlimited green. It looks like a John boat, but it really isn't one. I revamped the trailer not too long ago to kind of sit this thing on top of. But other than that, I mean, most of everything that you're going to see on here is all top of the line stuff, between all grip quality paint and decking, all the way down into being laid with basalt over the top. I tried not to spare any expense when it got into the building materials and the cost of just how it was going to ultimately end up in that aspect. The only time that I really cut any corners was probably some of the cosmetic stuff, which you'll kind of see here in a little bit. But the main thing is it looks good from a distance. So that was kind of the whole deal on that end. But yeah, like I said, I'll throw a couple more little keys in here so you can kind of get an idea, but this is the boat. All right, so as you can see, very simple when it got into the layout and the design of everything. I really was thinking of simplicity of that. This boat is primarily fished in flood tide situations or small creeks. I really don't do a lot of open water fishing. Here in South Carolina, we don't need to technically run a lot or a long ways in any given day. So for me, I really wanted to utilize in that fact of this particular boat. I'm not, gonna ultimately end up being a one boat guy. So when I was building this, I really wanted something that I could use in a particular way, and it was built for a certain thing. This in a no motor zone down in the Everglades would be a dream. It's really easy to pull. There's a couple key things when I was coming up with the design and looking for holes and stuff like that I was really trying to implement that kind of adds to that, and we'll touch base on that. But yeah, as you can see in the cockpit here, simple tiller, got a carbon extension or an extension from Carbon Marine, which is probably one of the more beneficial factors. I've thrown just a simple chair in there that if I ever have somebody with me, like my wife or one of my buddies fishing, that's obviously where they're gonna sit at. Kind of put a little grab rail on there to kind of just give me somewhere to grab onto as well. You'll notice I've got a little bench seat down there. It really doesn't get used. That's just something that, kind of fell into my lap in that sense, and it looks really good on the boat, but it makes a great spot for when you're retying rigs. Other little key notable features, as you can see, the bow and the stern are both open, so there's no hatches or compartments onto this. I can touch every nut and bolt on this boat. All the bolts everything that's kind of been implemented into this boat is bolts, with that being said. Having worked in the marine industry for such a while and working on boats and seeing all like the fail zone spots, it was a lot easier for me when I was coming into building this boat, and just kind of implementing some of those things. So a lot of the stuff that you'll see on this are, made from a service industry background, with that being said. All right, so a couple other little key features that you'll notice here on the rig is the whole inside layer, top and bottom, has been laid with basalt. It's not carbon fiber, it's actually another woven mesh material. It's just as light, but durable, and you're not seeing as much of the saltwater corrosion issues that we are with carbon fiber. The deck length and spacing is right at 74 inches. With this being obviously primarily used just to fly fish and to fish, like conventional, I really wanted to utilize as much of the deck space as I could, taken away from the cockpit area. The gunnel walls and side ends, instead of having a lip and support area, I decided to double down and just make boxes. This also substitutes and hides all my rigging tubes for fuel tanks, and in case I wanted to do nav lights or something like that. I have 2 PVC pipes that are actually ran all the way through these gunnel walls on either side. So right along that side, you'll notice where the rod holders kind of line up adjacent with PVC pipes. Same system, ties right into those, but just on the outside. I used an arch style when I was building the deck and the back platforms. There's actually going to be studs running 18 inches away all throughout this front deck, just in hopes that we never have any sagging or anything like that. And you'll kind of see the arches back here as well, right up 18 inches. There's another set on either side. Small lithium ion battery, like I said, just in case I want to run power, but most importantly just for my one feature, which is a bilge pump. And that's just something, obviously I feel like I really, if I was going to have any accessory, it was going to be a bilge. But one more notable line I would definitely have to say is going to be these strakes running down the side. So if anybody's familiar with the Lappy or Hughes, you'll notice that they have the similar lines. And a lot of that was due in part to stickiness of when the boat turns. It gives it a little bit more traction on the side. But what ultimately ends up happening too is the boat becomes a lot easier to pull. So all these lines and stuff ultimately help keep that boat a little bit straighter from coming off of the track. And the last key factor is it reduces hull slap to a really significant amount. And that's simply for the fact that water's not brushing off just one flat surface when it's hitting against this. These chines and slivers all the way down the boat actually cut the water. So if you're sitting still, you're not hearing the water slap just as much as you would just a flat bottom or a flat side. It's not the world's biggest difference, but you know, it's definitely another notable feature. Well, not much to say, not much to see. Like I said, just a very simple boat. Has a lot of memories, built from hand and scratch. Like I said, never skipped a beat when it got into the building materials or the quality of the aspect. Just cosmetically, maybe in a few places, didn't want to add more in. But yeah, thanks for sticking around. I hope you guys look for some more, and we'll have more content coming out soon.